as it does a full plane. So you just eliminate flights.
Right. Yeah. And they're laying off many, many employees now. It's not a good situation for the airline.
No.
Couple 100,000.
Well, shall we begin?
Are we all here?
Peggy, aren't we?
We're missing Peggy, I think, but I see Greg is with us. So let us begin. It's 1:32. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Commissioner Gossick Simon isn't here yet. Vice Mayor Bobby,
Present.
Mayor Hillman,
Present.
and Town Manager Lavity,
Present.
and Town Attorney Tercivia isn't here yet.
Okay, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the
The
flag
flag of the
of the United States of America
and
and
to the republic
for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
For a second?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Okay, just for the record, Commissioner Gossick Simon is present and Town Attorney Tercivia is present.
Excellent. Thank you. There are no presentations or proclamations, and there are no public comments. So we can move on to announcements. Board vacancies, we have the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. There are 2 vacancies. There is 1 vacancy on the Financial Advisory Board. Meetings and events, October 29th, there is the Code Enforcement Board, regular meeting, that's virtual. And that's the end of the virtual meetings. We move into chambers in November. On the 5th, there'll be a town commission meeting. The 11th, Town Hall is closed for the Veterans Day. And on the 12th, there is a planning board meeting at 9:30.
Doug,
Yes,
you might mention that the November 5th meeting was moved to Thursday because the Tuesday was election day. So it's not the regular Tuesday.
yeah, very good. Thank you for bringing that up. Otherwise, people might be looking for the regular Tuesday meeting.
Right.
There are no board action reports, there are no ordinances, and there are no consent agenda, so we'll move to unfinished business. And the first is 10A, which is the strategic priorities plan is up for approval. And for your information, it's on page 8 in the packet. And I'll turn that over to Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, you'll see what I hope is an approvable strategic 2020 strategic priorities plan. What we've done in there is we've tweaked the values per your statements in the past. So the value statements have been adjusted slightly per your feedback. There's a little bit more of a descriptive paragraph that opens the priorities plan to tell you what commenced, plan, how we're going to report out on this. And this is part of our budgeting process. So we will have a new priorities plan next year as part of the budget, which we'll update, and then quarterly we'll report progress. The other interesting part that's new to it is the action planning process. Relatively simple. I mean, if it's a very complex project, like a large sanitary sewer project, we will probably have a more robust action plan for that would probably be developed by the engineers if you had multiple subs and a longer construction process. But for more of our straightforward, we put a template in here. So this is what we'll see. So case in point, to show you a sample of this, I will put a small task force together to work on the communication plan. They will develop an action plan, describe the project, and identify those steps. They will submit that to me. I'll look at it, approve it, get it to the commission for any comments, and then it goes on to the website so the public and commission and everybody can follow along as to where we at with this strategic priority project. So this way it will keep us accountable and keep us on pace and motivated to complete the project. So if you give us approval today, we'll move into that phase where we will move on to some of these projects, assign it to the right staff and departments, get them to establish their action plans and get moving. Some of these things have already been completed. So in our first update, you'll see it'll be project completed. So some of the things that are in action are almost near completion. We probably won't have an action plan outside of it's on your agenda. You're starting to see those final action steps. Right. The newer stuff that's in the more the plan stage will be, you'll start seeing that action planning template utilized and shared. So with that, I see one little typo I got to fix. I'm giving you a timeline for right away, but that's coming, I think, to your next meeting. So it'll, here we go. Other than that, I'm all ears, and any comments, suggestions, changes, I can answer at this time.
Okay, let's run it around. John, got any comments?
Just a minor one, which is in your action plan, I assume you will have target dates for each of these to be completed so that we'll have an idea of the progress you're making.
Right on there, John.
Yeah, but I'm saying the progress completed towards the completion date, I assume that you're going to run into problems. And is there a way for you to advise us through this template when you run into obstacles?
Sure, absolutely. When we do obstacles, more of challenges that convert into opportunities. So we will, as we come across those, we'll update that action plan and get it to the commission and let you know. So if we're moving into a project and say we have a regulatory hurdle or a state obstruction or something of that nature where, I may need the commission to move the mountain a little bit, I will definitely be bringing that back to the commission. Or if we run into unanticipated delays or budgetary issues, then of course those will come in. And then on larger scale projects, where we might have potential for change orders to address unforeseen type site conditions, those do require commission action. So you'll see anything of substance on change, 1 week delay or this or that, maybe not so much outside of the quarterly reporting.
Right.
But if
it's the major risks where you need to come back to the commission. And of course, in all of this, I hope you don't have any opportunities.
Right. So, nice, right? So, yeah. And again, we're going to put this on the website too. So anybody can come see what we're working on. And
that's good.
Signed. And so it'll always be there like it's a more simplistic dashboard. You'll hear that out in the governance space that, where your performance dashboard, how the community's moving towards reaching its goals and objectives. It'll be kind of like that, but a little more static in the sense that we'll have a form versus something that's a web-based tool to track projects, but it'll be pretty close.
Yeah. Excellent.
We'll have a date on the bottom, what date it was updated and stuff, who to contact.
I have a suggestion. Since you're going to have an expected date of completion, if you run into an opportunity, perhaps you could explain a little bit of how that came about so that people don't just think that we're not doing it. They understand why the target date isn't going to be met.
Good.
So it should forestall a lot of questions that way.
Yeah, well, he has a comment section on his form, so you can fill it in right there.
Right.
Yeah, delayed because. Yep. Actually, it's you have the ball, Evelyn, if there's anything else you want to add.
No, it looks good to me.
Okay.
I assume that there will be changes as we go along and things fall off and other things may become more urgent, but as a starting point, absolutely, it's great.
It's also a lot.
It's a lot.
To say the least, I hope you can get all this done. That's why the progress is going to be important.
Yeah, well, this is the 6-month plan, right? So he's got 6 months to do all this, I think. Right? Isn't that what we decided?
Yeah, next week I got it's all due, so I'll be working a long weekend.
Wow.
Okay, let's move on to Peggy. Peggy?
Thanks, Mayor. I have no changes except just consideration that every time I drive home, I just hate to see those entrance monument signs. I just wondered if, being it's 2 signs, maybe we wanted to just consider that as a sooner than later project. It's not overwhelming, it's not complicated, but I would like to see those replaced. Minor thing, but everyone sees them every day.
Well, let's see where we have it on here. Possibly we have it below. So where is it on our packet?
If you go to the master list at the very end, you'll see it as number 2 plan. So we'll be getting to it in relatively short order. If
Yeah.
I think we've even passively begun to look for a firm that can sketch some things up for us. We really don't have those type of design tools available. So we're just looking for a firm that can, maybe sketch out a few things based on your last set of comments on maybe with the logo, maybe without, keeping it wood, keeping it more subtle, that kind of thing, updating a little.
Yep.
So we need somebody to help us kind of design it a little bit.
Yeah, so it's pretty high on the list right now.
Sure.
Okay.
It's just such an apparent blight on coming into town. And then my other idea, I think I threw out before, is would we want to prepare 2 or 3 designs and have residents weigh in on it, either by vote or just by some kind of an informal nod, so that they would
Yeah,
have
sure.
a voice in choosing it rather than putting it on the 6 of us. I mean,
Absolutely.
just an
But
idea.
Yeah, for sure.
That will take longer, but it's a good
I
idea.
understand.
Yeah, it's a great,
I
absolutely.
understand.
Yeah, I'm with you totally. I think we get it down as a commission to maybe the 3 we're comfortable with, and then get the input from residents.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's an idea. All
On to you,
righty.
Greg. Greg,
No changes at all. No comments, no changes. Looks good.
okay, one thing I'd like to just add, obviously, things will come up, as mentioned by someone, and when they do, we'll identify which segment it falls into and where it will be on the priorities. This obviously is a living, breathing list here, and things are going to come up. So we'll deal with it on a priority basis. Okay. That's all. Well done. And we should all be pretty good. It was a tough exercise to go through, but at least we have it finalized. And I like your action plan template. And it's just a living, breathing tool for everybody to know what's going on. So thank you. I guess we need to approve it and then put it into work.
So I'll make the motion to adopt the strategic priorities as detailed and agreed in our discussion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We don't need a roll call, do we?
No, you don't.
No.
Okay, we're good. Let's move on to, we need, this would now be 10B. It's on page 16. It's to approve me to execute the agreement with AT&T for $46,080. John, I'm guessing you had the opportunity to speak with whomever you needed to speak with at the town hall on the details of this. Are
I
you-
did. And Tarisha, I'm sorry, will
Okay.
cover that in her summary, but, I brought to them my suggestions on what to pursue and how to pursue it, that's all.
Okay. Teresa, are we ready to move forward on it now?
Good afternoon, everyone. Based on our last conversation, the AT&T agreement is before you to extend our current contract with AT&T for data services for an additional 3 years. Upon conversations with Commissioner Shoemaker, Mark Rutledge, our IT consultant, and our AT&T representatives, we were able to renegotiate the monthly price that they originally proposed. So the original proposal was $1,280.80 per month for 250 megabits per second. Currently, the town, which includes the town hall, the police department, building department, and the library, we are functioning off of 100 megabits per second for a cost of $998 per month. So the new proposal now, AT&T was able to negotiate $100 off of the monthly price, bringing the new price to $1,180.80. So that would bring the total for the 3 years of the contract to $42,480.
Oh, well done.
Full in negotiating that.
Excellent.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Teresia deserves all the credit on this.
Thank
With
you.
Mark's support, they carried the ball. I think it was well done.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you. And on that, there was a second issue that we discussed, Commissioner Shoemaker, with regard to the cell phone service within the town of Highland Beach. I know there's a lot of complaints regarding AT&T cell service within the town. So I have begun conversations with our AT&T representative that handles the mobile side of AT&T within the town. So at this time, I don't have an update, but I'm going to continue those conversations with regard to improving the cell service within town. And as soon as we have more information, I'll bring that forth to the commission.
Very good.
You keep that up, we're going to put you on the budget. Excellent.
Thank you.
The motion. John, you want to make the
I
motion?
would certainly make a motion to adopt the AT&T contract as renegotiated by our trusty team. At the head and along with Mark, I certainly appreciate it.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. So passed. Okay, let's move on now to 10C, which is Resolution 20-01 amended. That's the resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, amending resolution number 19-008R, adopting commission rules governing interactions with staff, town attorney, advisory boards, and outside agencies, and providing an effective date. I will turn this over to Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. As we had discussed this before, it was indicated we wanted to add a little bit more flexibility into the document for commissioners, one, to interact with other elected officials, either at community events or within daily operations or natural course of action. So we worked to create some flexibility in there. I know that there may be some additional changes that are wanted as I've fielded a few calls. So this would be an opportune time for us to discuss, do we want to, if you will, for lack of better words, roll it back a little bit more and just keep a basic reporting requirement for any interactions as it relates to commission or to other elected official communications or something in between. So we added some stuff that basically said if you were out in a social environment, that was the biggest change that I think Glenn added, was really if you're in a social interaction and that conversation elevates to something that's going to be an agenda item now or in the foreseeable near future, that you have to report that back to the commission on what that conversation was. So, and that's really what we kind of inserted here, was just that you have as a reporting requirement, make sure we do that. So there are other things that govern how the commissioners are to interact with each other and You'll see some of that is established in our charter. That also establishes the rules that bound my services working on behalf of this commission. So those also are still in play. So I guess I'm looking for a little bit of guided direction. If you like it, we can move forward today and approve it. Or if you want to see some more changes, we can do that as well.
Okay.
Mayor?
It starts on page 31, by the way. Somebody said mayor?
Me, Peggy.
Oh, hi, Peg. Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to be a leadoff batter here on this, since this involved me in 2019.
You got it, Peg. It's all yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I put together a little page of notes. This resolution was brought forward on February 5th, 2019, and by the attorney. And we on the commission did not ask for this resolution at the time. And it was brought up after I made calls to FDOT to find out if the $45 million resolution was really what we were being told it was. And so I found it very strange at the time, and still do now, that this resolution was enacted or proposed at the same exact meeting that I reported that FDOT did not provide the same information on that doomed resolution as we were getting on the commission. And so the resolution was basically from an out of control rogue vice mayor. And she's gone. And really, commissioners should have the ability to contact other elected officials for research and information. And this is the whole basis of the Florida League of Cities. That it's the #1 league in the country. And when I got elected, then Valerie Oaks said, you jump into the league, it will assist the town, it will assist the commission and the townspeople. And so I did, and I find it very helpful. It has helped guide us in terms of obtaining appropriations money. I found out in the first month that a little tiny town in the middle of Florida obtained $400,000 in grants, a town smaller than ours. And they said, well, you sure can too, just ask for it. And grants appropriations. So I feel that this is certainly not necessary. Some guidelines are acceptable, maybe in the form of a policy, but not a resolution. Because we on the commission are elected to represent the people. And then restricting the commission from interactions, I mean, what's social and what's not? Who is to say? We have people living in town who serve on state, county, local, even federal boards and agencies. Are we not supposed to talk to them? They're our constituents, and yet their daily job is serving for the government. And there's nothing wrong with multiple commissioners contacting agencies. Those agencies are paid by taxpayers too, and us. And so if we adopt this, or if we rework it possibly, but if we adopt it, it is saying that the attorney and the town manager have the right to tell all commissioners who and when we can speak to people. And that removes that ability of the commission acting on behalf of all residents and taxpayers to do their jobs. It reverses the roles. And I have a problem with that. I feel that we do not enact contracts. We do not do negotiations. We do not say, I represent the commission and I'm here to do this deal with FDOT and a bond agreement. I found out about that by going to a friend's house whose husband, a reporter whose husband had already been contacted by the vice mayor to do a bond deal on behalf of our town. And I said, what? I was shocked. That's how I found out about that. So we have, for example, the mayor did the best deal we have had in 30 years by contacting Commissioner Weinroth and discussing Milani Park with Commissioner David at the time. That was amazing. That we should be able to call someone and say, can you come and take a look at this? I'm calling on behalf of myself, not the commission. And then secondly, Marshall has a lot on his plate. There are times that a commissioner can go and make a call with Marshall and get something done. We had, when Marshall's second week, we were having a major problem with a dock, actually 2 docks in town, whose permits were questioned, whose permits came through our former building department. And in fact, I said, well, I know someone who knows the Army Corps people. And we made calls, and Marshall and I and the building official at the time met with that Army Corps executive, and he was in charge of the entire Southeast Florida, the Virgin Islands. And he showed up here and helped us sort out that problem. That dock had undergone numerous changes in permits. So I'm just saying, we need to work together to do deals, but we should not have our hands tied and be policing one another for purported violations like we're school children. I mean, every time I had a conversation with someone, virtually, I would tell Marshall, oh, I talked to so-and-so. I here's some information for you. I mean, I'm an open book, and I think we all are. And so I'm not for throwing this together as a resolution with ethics sanctions and basically sowing distrust and disharmony among this commission. We get along fine. You can come to my house. Well, the commission can't, but the rest of them. I've had residents knock on my door and come and say, could I have that paper? Could I have that? Here you go. That's me. But I do not want to be policing Doug and Evelyn and John and Greg. And that's not our jobs. We work together, and we should not be having to log calls. Well, this is a social call and this is a business call, and this falls in this category. I mean, it would drive us crazy. If we don't trust each other or Marshall, then we shouldn't be here. And that's how I feel. Oh, sorry. And that's that. I propose that this either needs a major tweak or just disregarded because we have rules in place to handle this. Oh, one last thing, the AT&T contract that we're negotiating today, or that Marshall is, that was basically cut in half by former Commissioner Elise Risa, which Marshall, confirmed last week, when she had a contact through her son, who was high up in AT&T, and reduced our price substantially, way before I ever got on the commission. And so that's the kind of connections we do not want to just throw out the door. So that's how I feel. I feel this is unnecessary and makes us act like kindergartners at recess, tattling on one another. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Peggy. Let's move on to Evelyn.
Okay, I respectfully disagree. Among other things, Peggy, you called FDOT, Elise called FDOT, 2 or 3 other people called FDOT, and FDOT threw up their hands and said, we're not dealing with any of you. And it's taken Marshall a year and a half to get us back on track with them. We need to be able to speak with one voice. That being said, I believe that this should be loosened up a little. I do believe that the mayor should be given more flexibility. The mayor should be allowed to call the attorney if deemed necessary. I don't want to give that right to everyone on the commission, because then it turns into a waste of money. I also don't think, as far as using town staff, it's fine if someone has an idea that they think we might need an ordinance on or a resolution on, but don't ask the town staff to do any research until you come before the commission and make sure that the commission is interested in doing this. If we're not, then all the staff's time or the attorney's time or Marshall's time is wasted. And we can't afford to waste any time. As far as the mayor is concerned, or anybody else who gets permission to talk to someone outside of our town, anyone should be able to get that, anyone on the commission, but bring it to the commission first. That's really what this was saying, is say, okay, I want to do this and I wanted to deal with this. And the commission says, fine. And then you just report back. And I don't have an issue with that. But it's when one person is asked to do something and someone else calls and interferes with what's being done because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. We need to get a firmer control on that. We also, anyone who talks to outside people, it has to be made clear that unless it's a specific contract negotiation that they are involved in because the commission and the town manager asked them to be involved in it, you have to make sure people know you're not representing the town. It has to be crystal clear, because when you talk to somebody, you give the appearance of having authority. And giving the appearance of having authority can, in fact, at times give people the right to do certain things on our behalf. That can't be. I think that when we have resolutions or ordinances, that we should take advantage of the special knowledge that different members of our commission have. And they should work with Marshall and Glenn on drafting these things, because they may have insight that the rest of us don't have, and they may have insight that Marshall or Glenn may not have. And I think that we need to take advantage of the resources that we have. As far as utilizing resources of people in the town, I have no problem with that. But just ask first. Say, look, I have this contact. Can I call them? And then everybody knows where it's going. It's, maybe we should do it kind of in the, sponsoring a bill. You say, look, I think this should be done. And you see it through with the proper authorities, as everybody knows where everyone else is going. But we can't have people double timing and creating an issue so a job that was given can't be completed as accepted. No, I think that this needs to be tweaked. I think it needs to be loosened up a little. But I think in general that we need it.
Anything else?
No, not at the moment. I may have more later.
Okay, let's move on to John.
Okay, well, look at this without all that history. Read it and realized, I got to go through this. Through each page, line by line, and I wasn't sure. Town Manager Marshall, did you write this, or was this written by the town attorney?
Pam and I put it together. I'll give her for some of the language. She did a really good job addressing what we needed at the time. I think that, like you said, the context of how this was developed is important. And if, as we move through these conversations, we need to discussion on why some of these things were important at the time. I'll be more than glad to do it. But the attorney and I wrote it together because we were divergent, and some of the concerns, I mean, we were all working in all three different directions. And I think the biggest thing that got it wasn't so much elected to elected. Like I've always said, and I continue to say every time I'm asked, that's your space. Elected officials working with elected officials. Who? But space. You're elected. Go do it. Go talk to these people. My concern is when people were calling to lower level individuals with outside agencies, it really puts those folks in a really compromised spot what to do, because they're not just getting a call from what I would say like a counterpart like myself, another division manager of FDOT. They were getting calls from everybody at different levels of passion and needs and interests. And that concept of appearance of authority and influence was really exerted, and it just kind of put everything in. It was in. So, like I said, elected officials working with elected officials, it does not bother me, and I don't think it should bother anyone, so long as if you're speaking to or obligating the town on some type of contract or future action, your colleagues need to know where you're going with that, because there's no unilateral approval authority under this charter. So if you're having a conversation and you just talk about random governance stuff, topics, that's fine. But if all of a sudden it goes to, we're interested in that contract, draft it up and we'll get going and we'll do this. That's where we had some trouble trying to add clarity that at that point, we need to identify that that's a commission decision. It takes a collective action. But again, talking about subjects of interest with other elected officials, you're always going to be in that space.
Can I
Okay.
add something to that? I agree with you mostly, but there are a couple of exceptions. For example, other than the mayor, I don't think anyone on our commission should approach anyone on the Delray Commission regarding contracts that we have with them, because that's outside the scope. And that should be done with one voice, not multiple. But as far as contacting other people and, at a social gathering, or even to call up and say, look, we're looking into something about docks. Do you have an ordinance we could look at? That I think is fine, because then you're using the knowledge that somebody else has gotten and you're not inventing the wheel completely. But that's why I say there are exceptions to that. And it would be where we have a specific contractual relationship with the town that you are contacting an official on.
Okay, well, looking at this document, my first impression was that the overall tone, the impression that I got was that it was kind of adversarial.
Yep.
I was somewhat surprised. Maybe I didn't do my homework, 4 or 5 months ago when we had some of these discussions. But anyways, I then started to say, okay, let's look at each section. Under town staff, my goodness, I feel like this is worded in a way in which I can't even go to Teresa to ask, hey, I got a problem on my laptop, without first going to town manager. Now, I should preface this by saying, in no way is this a reflection on you as town manager, Marshall, or town attorney. I'm looking at this as a document that will be around for a long time, even after I'm gone or you're gone. It doesn't matter. This is a resolution. And so my first thought was, do other towns have something like this? I don't know. So as ignorant as I might be, I would find it amazing to see that this is replicated elsewhere. So the reason why this document was created was because of Mayor Nyla and the mess that went on in the last council. Now, my understanding is that the councils before that, for years, worked fairly well. And for the 7 months that I've been on this team, and I consider it a team council, it's really been working fine. So then I said, okay, with the town staff, I think that's kind of common sense that we would go to the town manager for those strategic issues or projects that we have questions about. But to just go to the town clerk or to any of the members of the staff for operational detail follow-up questions that might take 5 or 10 minutes or something, it would seem to me we're free to do that. All right, well, go beyond that. It says here, any follow-up questions or direction an elected official may have should be made through the town manager, as if you're the traffic cop. And I'm wondering, do you really want to put yourself in that position?
Yep.
Or working with the town staff? I don't think so. If I go on here, elected officials should avoid attending meetings with staff unless requested by the town manager. Okay, I don't have a problem with that, but if I found that there was a meeting that I was interested in, I don't know if I show up that that's a problem, but I would, in any event, always let you know in advance anyway. I think that's common courtesy here. So I'm almost thinking, courtesy wise, wouldn't we all do this anyway? I don't see a problem there. But then I go on to the town attorney and it says, in an effort to reduce bills and the duplications of efforts, this is why some of these restrictions were put in place. To be honest with you, if we're really interested in reducing the attorney's costs, I question whether we need our town attorney at every one of our town council meetings. Now, that's just me. Maybe legally there has to be a town attorney and all this sort of thing, but for most of the meetings I've been to, only occasionally have we needed his input for one question, and that was it. And so he would sit there for 3 or 4 hours and not really have to make any input. But, you know, if that's required, it's required. I just don't know if the point of this was to reduce the cost of the bills, because there'd be other ways to do that. All right, then I go on to, from the town manager. Again, is it common practice? Why is it that everything has to go through the town manager? Frankly, if anybody, it would seem to me that much of this should be approved by the town mayor. And I support the mayor being, if anybody, the traffic cop, working with the town manager. So I think there's a wording issue here in terms of guidelines versus a focus on restrictions, or you cannot do this, or you have to avoid that, or else. And then, you know, you get into problem areas. It is true, I'm mindful of the Delray mess. So I've been assuming, and I think, again, it comes down to common sense, that none of us would intend on going to any elected official in Boca or Delray, or maybe one of the other surrounding towns like Boynton, to talk about our issues. That's sunshine laws, maybe, that's common sense. You wouldn't do that without getting approval of the town council, or at least the mayor. Again, I come back to the authority of the mayor. The other part of it is, you don't want to have any one person so dominant in the authority that then we become vulnerable to what's happening in Delray, you know, the misconduct, fraud, corruption, and all that sort of thing. Again, Marshall has nothing to do with you as a person. You know how we all think about you. You're a jewel, okay? All right, then I went on. The better practice is not to participate at all in these advisory meetings. And yet in the beginning, it says we want to ensure commission manager form of government and to work with the advisory boards. You know, I just feel like they were contradictory. You want cooperation and communication, but you can't attend. And then here's all the things you have to consider when you do attend. You know, you don't want to give any impression you're supporting anybody else. Now, there are some legal issues, and I understand that. And you have sunshine laws, I understand that as well. So this almost supersedes sunshine laws in some ways. You could argue it anyway. And then I go on to, you do have a typo on outside agencies, D1. It says here, outside agencies as is business. You know, it's just a typo there, trivial point. But and I didn't have much of a problem with outside agencies in that, again, it makes common sense that we want to go to outside agencies when it's appropriate and when we're doing it as a team that we've discussed. But on point number 5, it reads, an elected official must may interact socially with elected officials of outside agencies, provided the elected official does not discuss town matters. That's a sunshine law thing, I think, but even not. Town matters are topics, projects, initiatives, or policy issues that have or will reasonably come before the town commission in the foreseeable future. Oh my goodness, that pretty much stops everything. You know, if you wanted to take it to the extreme point. I wonder if I went to the Boca Highland Beach Condo Association. Okay, beach dune restoration. I know they talk about that, or talk about communications, or maybe preferred projects they've done and the project companies they work with. Well, I'd like to be able to talk and hear about that. Not that I'm, trying to favor them. I want to gather that information. I would be questioned about even attending that association meeting. And of course, I've been doing that up until COVID. So I really, in the end, I take this and I say, okay, here's what it all comes down to. Whatever document is created, if we even need this based upon our demonstrated practice to date, but even if this is needed, I think you could take this 5 or 6, 7 pages, knock it down to about 2, and the focus is on how can we trust each other? How can we collaborate without breaking sunshine laws or, legal and common sense practice? Trust, collaboration. The third one would be unfettered communication. I feel like, geez, before I talk to somebody, I got to think about, here's all my restrictions. I think we need to enhance communication, not restrict it. And then lastly, wording should be more about guidelines and suggestions, separate from sunshine laws. And all of this is, the point of all of this, I hope, is to do one thing: inspire teamwork. Now, I'm coming from a business background, so I'm thinking team all the time. I think the team we have is awesome. We've demonstrated a practice over 7 months in my short experience that we haven't violated, we haven't done anything stupid yet. I think we're on the right track. So that's where I am. I'm thinking, at the very least, this needs to be cut down to 2 pages. We need more authority with the mayor. We need to have it focus on trust, collaboration, communication that inspires teamwork, and common sense. So I hope that was clear. I hope I didn't offend, certainly, the key people, the attorney and the town manager. Thank you.
Done?
I am done.
Okay, thank you.
For now.
Okay, for now. On to Greg.
Thanks, Mayor. I echo a lot of what all the commissioners said, so I'll just kind of summarize it quickly. Commission principles that I've always written for myself, leverage that surrounding towns are doing. This is a case where I don't think surrounding towns have a lot of ordinances like this. Maybe we shouldn't have one. The other commission principle I have, resist the urge to revenge govern. This seems very much like revenge governing to me. So I'm not a fan of that. I had a nice conversation with Marshall before the agenda, or after the agenda came out for the meeting, got his opinion on it. Something that is needed, and I think Evelyn said this, and a few others might have said this, we do need coordination with outside agencies, one voice. I do agree with that. That is actually very important. I think a lot of the other things in here are not needed. I do like the idea that Evelyn put forward, and so did Jeff Kleiman, who's one of the residents, about ordinances being sponsored by a commissioner. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I'm certainly a fan of that. Glenn, you'll hate this part, but we've had this conversation before. Lastly, I've never been a fan of Pam's work. Pam tends to write legislation that is overbearing and very adversarial. I actually didn't know that she wrote this until that came out now. So I prefer to have her really doing nothing for us. It's up to Glenn if he wants to use her or not. But it is interesting. The calls I got this weekend from residents were calls of, hey, we said we're going to put the legal team bid out. We should do that. Look what they just wrote. This is like horrible adversarial legislation. So I guess that tells you the residents don't like Pam's work either. So my only comment on it is, this is adversarial, aggressive legislation. And I would say 90% of it's not needed, with the exception of the coordinating of outside agencies. Or Marshall, you might have had 1 or 2 more areas, I can't remember, that you thought were definitely needed, but a lot of this isn't.
Thank you. quick comment on one thing that you just said. Pam is not up to Glenn, it's up to us. If we don't want Pam's work, we're the client and we make that decision, not Glenn.
That's true.
Sorry, Glenn. Okay. Call. Second, I also got, I didn't get phone calls, but I got a couple of emails, 3 actually, from residents. When they read this, they thought it was rather draconian also. I think that instead of taking the template from what was done before, we should start all over again on this. It appears to me as though it was a rather out of control commission at the time, and this had to be done, and you had to put seatbelts on them, and it was proper at the time, because if memory serves me right, the legal bills were probably between $200,000 and $250,000 because each commissioner was on the phone with Pam for hours on end. Not just talking about legal issues, but talking about many, many other things that they probably should not have been talking with her about. And they were all calling outside agencies and with conflicting conversations. So it was proper at the time. But now we have a totally different commission as articulated by John. So I think a whole different approach needs to be taken here. And this needs to be thrown out and we have to start from scratch. And we need to have a commissioner involved in writing it. And that commissioner should be the one with the legal background. And that's Evelyn. So Evelyn needs to sit on the group that writes this. And that group is obviously Glenn and Marshall. So I think you throw out what we have and you start from scratch. You've gotten input from the entire commission. They obviously don't want it to be as restrictive as this is. And I, as the mayor, obviously cannot develop the relationships with other mayors under these conditions. So I think you have enough input. If you don't, ask questions, Marshall. What else do you need to know?
Well, I mean, we could take a look at rewriting it, or you roll it back. I mean, the charter is clear what my duties are. It's pretty clear what the commission's duties are. I think you're right. I got some other possible solutions to get to some of this that maybe, I guess, using everyone's word, less draconian, which we needed. As you said, Mayor, we did need seatbelts. So, you know, we could come up with something a little bit quicker, simpler, really elected to elected with communication to the commission. That's a simple 2 sentences, you know. I would strongly like to see some limitations on into these outside agencies at the staff level. If it's the Secretary of Transportation, that's your space. You go ahead, they're appointed, they're political in nature, pseudo-elected, but calling potentially,
Contractors.
calling a road manager and saying, I'm Commissioner so-and-so, will give me this information, why is this? That seems to be kind of a little bit out of line. But you know, the top talking to the top or the brass talking to the brass seems totally fine to me.
Let me add a couple of things if I can, in my opinion, nobody should be giving assignments to your staff without your okay. To me, that's perfectly fine and should be done. Can somebody stop in with a computer problem and ask Teresa for help? Of course. But can somebody stop in and ask for a research project to be done? Absolutely not, without your okay. Can somebody stop in and give assignments to people? Absolutely not, without your okay. They can't be taking up your staff's time, period. has to go through you. I think the point that Evelyn made, anytime we have a contract with any outside agency, I don't think any commissioner should be discussing that contract with that outside agency, period. Anybody disagree with that?
Can I reinforce a point you've made, Mayor?
Right ahead.
That is, because of one administration, the past one, like you said, that required, seatbelts, and it was unfortunate, and
Had to be done.
that, all of that. But we, this council, should not be burdened with that past, and that we need to focus today and on the future on how best to go forward, not only in our behavior, but our actions, our cooperation.
Yes.
And to do it in a meaningful way. So I totally applaud what you're saying.
Okay. So there's, but let me just, we need to get Marshall focused, or what he's going to give back to us, we're not going to like.
Right.
So I'm being a little redundant, but if there is a contract, we are not to discuss that. No commissioner should discuss that with whoever holds that contract, whether it's another town or it's a private company. That's not our role, period. So for example, we're about to approve a contract to have this sailboat taken away. Nobody on this commission is to be discussing that with the company that is going to do that.
Common sense.
Problem with what they're doing, we go to Marshall. We don't go to the company that's involved in it. Those sort of things we should just not be getting involved in. Is there anything else in particular that we want to make sure that Marshall covers?
Okay. We asked John to get involved and look over the AT&T contract. That I think needs to be permissible. If someone is asked to take part in it, then that's fine.
Absolutely,
So
Commissioner.
that we're not prohibiting the behavior completely. We're just kind of saying, well, you need permission or you need to be asked.
Well, we specifically asked him, and he has credentials in that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't mean, I
I
don't
get to
want
look
to
over
stop that,
contracts.
is what I'm
I get
saying.
to look over contracts for shirts then and clothing and stuff, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, but a contract can be a contract. Yeah, it shouldn't matter. You have to have certain elements in it.
Okay.
So, and as far as penalties, look, we all know there is no penalty. There's nothing that can be done. If some violation should rise to the level of an ethics violation, that's out of our hands. So we're not talking about that. We really aren't. We're not, you're right, it's a guide. It's please do it this way, because when people don't do it this way, we wind up with problems.
Right, right. Okay, so that takes care of that. You can eliminate penalties. Anything else specifically we want him to cover? I'm sorry, go right ahead, Peggy.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just have a couple comments in answering some of these concerns. Technically, we're not a strong mayor commission, and therefore your role, mayor, would be equal to all of our roles, as well as the vice mayors. However, I do not mind personally. I don't have an ego the size of Highland Beach. I am happy to appoint you, and Greg is back up, to undertake any attempts with Marshall that may be made or needed for contracts, negotiations, whatever. Because I will tell you, I promise, I've heard this so many times, when a mayor or a commissioner gets involved, things happen. I have seen that in writing. I've heard about it at the league. A town manager, with all due respect, Marshall, is at a different level. And so if Marshall needs a little bit of extra horsepower to get something done or get the right people, I think it should be the mayor or the vice mayor. I think that's great. Secondly, there are times when we're drafting this new document, whatever that would be, there are times you cannot get advance permission.
Correct.
Sorry. Because let me give you one example. I had a meeting in Tampa with Federated Women last month. One of the speakers was the second most powerful man in the state, and that's the Senate President, Wilton Simpson, and he spoke. And he's the last guy who signed off on our appropriations request before it hit the governor's desk. And so he was in the hallway after, and I went up and thanked him for his support and that sort of thing. Oh, great, that's wonderful. He says, you know, we're sorry about COVID and we're all gearing up for a new year. Hopefully we'll get it under control. Is there anything else? What else might you guys need? I would have to say, I basically said, I really don't know at this point. But the guy is saying, gee, how's it going to go? I said, well, I think we're going to need the same things next year. So that was it. But there's at times you can't possibly imagine that something comes at you. Or you, Doug, could be having dinner at Positano's here, and in walks, you know, Ted Deutsch or whomever. It's a chance for you to say, hi, gee, whatever you can do, we might need help with the sea level rising, seawalls, whatever. There are just times you can't anticipate, and you'd have to wait 2 to 4 weeks to get an approval by the commission. But I'm really promoting everyone understanding this is all about trust. Believe me, I don't want to work anymore. My goal was to get the fire contract looked at by all of you all, because it's, as I said, it's my 3rd year looking at that thing, just taking off. And I think that is a great time that we appoint you, backed by Greg, and then every time you have a report, you bring it in at the next meeting, or you send an email via Marshall. And I think that would work fine. And then I think I would like to offer, I would like to have a municipal attorney look at whatever we draft outside of our current attorney, because I feel that what we have was a knee-jerk reaction to a disastrous referendum. And I promise you, if I had not made that call to FDOT, we would have been looking at $150,000 recall election. So let's just think about that. That was one call that undid a mess. So I would like to have a second municipal attorney outside of our town look at whatever we draft up. I mean, I've never heard of any town having any such resolution like this. And lastly, I'd like it to be a policy, not a resolution. I just don't think the 5 of us need babysat.
I think what we'll end up with, we'll all be very happy with. It'll be very simple.
Excellent.
I think so.
Okay. Glenn, did you have your hand up there?
Well, hesitant, this is really your area, so hesitant to wade into this.
No, don't be hesitant. You're part of the team.
All right, thank you. Well, that's a key word, and I know Commissioner John made that point too, or team. And clearly, especially for those of you that were not involved in 2016, 17, 18, Highland Beach was not a team. It was, and not to be disparaging to Delray Beach at this point, or at least as dysfunctional then as they are now. The commissioners were at odds with each other. They were at odds with staff. And that's what led to this. And I was involved in the beginning of it. And then Marshall and Pam got involved and finished it, this project, as Marshall indicated. If you remember, you were going through managers. You had Beverly Brown, you had Valerie Oakes, you had an interim manager, trying to blank on his name. You had this search that went on, and commissioners wound up, in a way, some commissioners flailing about, reaching out to staff, inappropriately going around the manager, reaching out to our office. And I just pulled up a chart I'd done once before, just to give scope of this. The 5 years before our firm became the town attorney, your legal bills averaged $215,000 a year. The 5 years after that, they averaged $105,000 a year. And all of a sudden in 2017, 18, and 18, 19, they averaged $180,000. So you saw that clear spike with that one group of commissioners that weren't functioning as a team. And I think the legal fees are only a representation of what was going on internally. I mean, that's when you also had, just soon before that, a union formed, of your non-police employees. So that's the past. So I question, frankly, do you need this document at all? And I've heard some of you say that. Because most other towns don't have this kind of document. And if you do, then what I hear all of you saying, the mayor and all the rest of you, is you want to really streamline it. You want it not to be so punitive. You don't want it to read as if someone is shaking their finger and saying, commissioners, you need to stop interfering with staff. You need to stop going behind staff's back or going behind the commission's back and reaching out to different level employees. I think Marshall might have said it earlier. This isn't about elected officials talking to other elected officials, but if it's an elected official talking to a line staff person, whether it's at a city or a state agency, and when we had in those days 2 or 3 or 4 commissioners. So if I'm Johnny Jones at the Department of XYZ and I get 3 or 4 calls from different commissioners from the same town, where do I put all of that? In the round bucket? Because what am I going to deal with this town where I'm getting 3 or 4 different directions and not speaking with a unified voice? You're different. The 5 of you work beautifully together as a team. You're a model town now in terms of other cities looking at how you can be run. Your meetings are efficient, they're collegial, they're civil. You disagree in an agreeable way. So this is a vestige of the past. Do you still maybe need it because the past is not that far away and you want to kind of hang on to that protection? Maybe, but you certainly need a much, if you need it at all, much more scaled down version than this, which was hitting you on the head yourselves. This wasn't the attorney or the manager hitting you guys on the head. It was the commissioners hitting yourselves on the head because you were at such odds. They were at such odds. So again, I don't know how helpful or any of that is. Just pat yourselves on the back. You have taken the town of Highland Beach from what was maybe not quite a laughing stock, but certainly was not something that other towns looked at and said, wow, that's a model town. Look how great that's being run. To now, you are a model town. Now other towns look and say, wow, Highland Beach, look at their meetings, look at their staff, look at the way their commission functions. Much different in a 1 year, 18-month period. And I'll tip my hat to Marshall, because I think Marshall, what did you start in the end of 18, September, October of 18?
October 1.
And that was
started October 1.
And that was the beginning, because it took you some time too, because everybody had to buy in. Because if I remember correctly, Marshall wasn't even in your top 5 list of finalists initially. That's where the commission and their consultant was all over the place. They had to reach outside of the list to somebody that some of the commissioners felt this might be the right person. So, don't beat yourselves up because some of your predecessors maybe didn't do a good job. So if you need this at all, then I go along with the rest of you saying much more streamed down version.
Glenn, I would consider these guidelines. And I think it's good to put it to paper. And they're guidelines that we'll operate under. They're reminders. And let's leave it at that.
One additional comment, sir?
No, we're done with it. When you got the order, you go to the airport.
No, not when I'm giving a little praise. One of the reasons why I feel that we are doing a good job, honestly, is because of reading the material that's presented to us in advance. And I think with the town clerk and her team getting us, along with Teresa, the information that we can read beforehand, think about it, work on it before we even have this, it cuts through all of it. So I think that's really one of the key elements that makes us productive.
Absolutely.
I thought you were going to say because you have a great mayor.
Yeah, well.
Big opportunity there.
Yeah, but he's absolutely right. I can remember sitting in that audience and seeing the handed material as they sat on the dais and have to vote on it.
Yeah,
And I couldn't understand how you could possibly read it and vote and talk about it at the same time.
No, we have a great staff. We're very well supported. The information comes in a timely manner. It's clear and concise. I'm very pleased, very pleased. And we have a commission. Pretty good attorney too. Are we finished with this? Ready to move?
Yeah.
Guidelines, come back with guidelines,
Come back with
Guidelines.
simple guidelines.
Simple, short and sweet,
1, 2 pages.
complete sentences even.
Okay,
Bullets. Okay, let's move on to Milani Park update. Teresa, if you could throw that up. Actually, don't put it up yet. Hold it for a second. I just want to just take that down. Thank you. Just a quick update. We finished our discussions with an agreement that we would have a phase 1 that would be significantly scaled down from the 125 parking spaces. There would be no lifeguard, there would be no bathroom facilities, et cetera, as I had communicated to you all. And Eric Hall would come back to us with a, basically a sketch showing what it would look like. And in an effort to have full disclosure, he also, on the sketch, shows what phase 2 might be. When he mentioned phase 2, in his opinion, it would be 8 or 10 years down the road if in fact there was a need for phase 2. And the definition of need is if the parking lot was being utilized to its fullest and phase 2 would be implemented down the road, meaning in 8 or 10 years. Is that how you understood it, Glenn?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now put it up if you would, Teresa. Okay, let's look at the parking lot first. Phase 1 of the parking lot actually has 42 parking spaces. When he laid it out, it came to 42, not 30 to 36. Now, obviously, we're not happy with 42, but not the end of the world. It's a hell of a lot better than the 125 that they have a right to do under the agreement that was agreed to some 10 years ago. And if you go across the street, you can see the dark brown, which is the walking path across to the beach. And she's just walking you over to the beach there. And that's basically it. 42 parking spaces, obviously appropriate fencing, landscaping, and that's it. Now, when you figure 42 parking spaces, if you assume, say, 2.5 people per car, that's slightly over 100 people on the beach if it's full. I don't think at high tide that beach can accommodate 100 people.
No, it can't.
Who said that?
Peggy.
It's Peggy.
Peggy,
Yeah, it
okay.
can't. You're right. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I'm glad that was Peggy because I know you've been on that beach many, many times.
Yes, sir. If I could inject, I tried snorkeling it not long ago on a calm sea, but the rips were pretty bad. And, you know, I almost think we need to have a warning sign regarding swimming and sunbathing because, you know, you get a rogue wave with a rock formation like that. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for swimmers.
I agree with you. And I would think, well, we would certainly ask Eric to post that. And I would think he would do that. What?
Yes, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt. It just sort of
No,
blurted it out.
No, that's fine.
Sorry.
That's fine. No, that's fine.
It's a rough beach.
Marshall and I were chatting about this and we thought it might be a good idea if I could get Rodrigo to get his drone back out and fired up, we
Right.
would try to get 100 people on that beach with their blankets and a few chairs at high tide and have him photograph it
Great.
to prove that even if we could get 100 on there, that they certainly can't go to phase 2. Because what phase 2 is, we can go back over to the parking lot, please, Teresa. This is phase 2. That's an additional 58 parking spaces, bringing it to a total of 100. And in phase 2, if we go across the street now, there are restrooms there. That's the lifeguard facility. That's, for changing, et cetera. And that's where the restrooms are. And then if we come all the way out onto the beach is the lifeguard station. And by the way, what I didn't show you is all the small type that's on the walkway. Those are little viewing stations. Can we try to enlarge that a little bit so we can show it a little better? There we go. Those are little viewing stations that talk about the background on the Indians, background on the, if I can read that. Can you read that? Anybody read that?
Nope.
No.
There we go.
It says, educational interpretive signage location to be mounted on railing.
There you go. Thank you. So it would be anything that we want. And it would be, background on the Indians, background on the dunes, background on Yamata Rock, any of the different pieces that we would want to add to that into the viewing stations. I think what we would put on there is get in your car and get the hell out of town.
What the heck?
Oops, no, I didn't say that. I forgot. The public is watching this. I should never have said such a thing. So we can back off now, bring it back up. So I think that's what we will do. There's no possible way that this could accommodate, 200 plus people. But if the commission agrees, we'll move forward on that and try to get 100 people on the beach at high tide.
I also have a request.
Well, let me see if the commission agrees on me doing that.
Oh, okay.
Are we in agreement, commissioners?
Yes, sure,
I'm in agreement.
sure.
Yeah. Okay,
I'll come over.
okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Comment.
I have a problem with the traffic. You have 3 major
True.
egress and ingress spaces in a very short distance. And they don't seem to have any real way for people to get across from the parking lot to the beach side. So that just makes more congestion as people are scooting across, and that's another danger.
Yeah, you're right.
And,
Crosswalk sign.
but I think, but they're not, I'm telling you, people are not gonna walk up to the other side. They're just not gonna do it. I've seen it now, and
There
they
is
don't do it.
There's a walkway right there. There it is.
Yeah, I see the walkway, but how are people getting across there? They're still going across 2 lanes of traffic.
That's
Yeah.
correct. That's
She's
correct.
right.
And that's my problem. That's a dangerous situation because you're adding all that many people in one spot.
They will do a traffic study and FDOT will work with them on it. I mean, I can't support it, but they know what they're doing. I mean,
I don't want to see
The
people
county
being
wouldn't do
hit
it
by
otherwise.
cars. I don't want to see people causing 2 cars to have an accident.
Yeah. But Evelyn, we have an opportunity here, to quote from our town marshal. We could put parking meters in at $20 an hour.
There you go.
That'll take care of it.
There you go.
there will be meters in there.
Yeah, it has to be.
Mhm.
Now, in doing this in phases like this, we'll have to open up the contract. We'll have to do, an amendment to the contract, which we will do. But I can't do anything about them walking across the street. I mean,
Yeah.
be careful when they walk across the street.
So Mayor, my
Yes, sir.
suggestion would be, they're definitely going to need the crosswalk signal like we're doing right now, as well as one ploy might be to take some of those parking spaces on the first phase, especially towards the left end as you enter, go all the way, down there, and turn those into bicycle spots and encourage people to ride their bicycle, lock them in the bicycle racks, and then walk across, and avoid the use of a car to begin with.
It's a very good idea.
Great idea.
Great idea.
Mayor,
Yes, yes. Yes, Peggy.
a couple of things, please. Will our police department be responsible for policing this property, or will the county provide someone? You're talking about, probably, I'm guessing the park would be closed at dusk or dark. And what do we do with people who want to party or go to the beach after hours? Who's policing it?
I would have to check the contract, but my guess is we would.
If they built
Okay,
this today, they would have an attendant and they would be responsible, open, close, and watching it. One of the things that was laid out in our conversations is if we would assume a larger role in exchange for something like this. We haven't defined any of those parameters, but regardless of what the county does, we're going to have some additional beach management responsibilities when you put a public facility there, especially if you get bathrooms. We'll be there more often than one might think, just to kind of keep track.
I think we're gonna need somebody there all the time, because otherwise you're not gonna stop people from trespassing. There,
Well, time out.
especially when you've got a
Right.
narrow beach, they're gonna spread to either side, and then they're on private property.
Those bathrooms don't come in.
and would we be compensated then for?
Unless- None of that happens unless phase 2.
No, I think, Peggy, the compensation is that they're scaling it down to begin with.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
Another concern, Mayor. Is our building official on? Is Jeff Remus on today? Okay, well, here's my question. The state codes were changed, I think, 2 years ago, that new properties needed to be raised 18 inches higher than former properties for building. And my question is, if the parking area is raised 18 inches in addition to the fill to bring it to grade current, that may elevate it higher than adjoining properties. And is there any kind of compensation here for the water runoff? Because this is happening throughout town, where the higher properties with new builds are draining onto neighboring properties which are lower from old codes.
Great question. I don't have a great answer.
Okay, so the neighboring properties need to be advised that
Well,
that
they
might
are
be
the
a
neigh-
problem down the road.
Well, no, they are the neighboring property. Because,
Oh.
can you bring that back up again, please? Teresa? You see where phase 2
Right.
is, that's their property. And then to the north is also their property. And everything goes downhill. So
What
it's,
about to the west and south?
well, to the west is their property. And they're not doing anything on phase 2 at this point. So,
Okay,
and then to the north is downhill to their property, and that right now is wetland, and it's all
understand. Yeah.
trees.
What
Sure.
about drainage into the
To the
street?
south,
That's what I'm saying. You're building it up.
I
It's
mean-
gonna drain
They-
more wa-
We already have drainage into the street, and it's
no,
lower.
it doesn't, it does not drain into the street.
Exactly.
It drains into the street on the other side of the entrance to our development, which is that road you see to the south of that green section.
Right, but I'm saying they'll have to bring it up to grade because it's currently lower than grade. And then on top of that, add 18 inches. I just want to be advised. I don't have the answer, but I'm posing it as a potential design problem.
Yeah, it's something they're.
Yes, sir.
There's one other problem we haven't talked about, Mayor, and that is this becoming a gravitational point for the homeless. Especially with restrooms.
Well,
Oh,
but again, that's phase two, if they ever
Right.
get to phase two. And that's 8 to 10 years after phase one is done, which is, I'm guessing 3 to 4 years from now.
Hmm.
So you're talking 12 years away. But yeah, once a restroom goes in, it's a problem. Beachfront problem. So that's why we want to get 100 people on the beach and get it photographed. To show them that phase two isn't a possibility. Because you want to get that done before we have to renegotiate the amendment. So I'd like to be able to do that without phase two even being considered.
Pick a date.
Yeah, we got to look at the tides, we can't do it till November anyways, because it's still turtle season. So we got to wait for that to be over.
Okay, then pick a date and we'll get the word out.
Okey doke. Well, we have a Boca Highland board meeting tomorrow. So I'll be able to announce this tomorrow. That will get everybody in the development involved as well. And then we'll get Peggy's development involved. So we'll be able to get enough people. Okay.
Mayor, is there a
Anything
certain
else on
time
this
of the
before we
day?
move on?
Is there a certain time of day you would want to do that filming? Is there a certain time of the day that's better for the drone?
I'll have to check with him, about light and everything, but again, I want to do it at high tide.
Right, well,
Right.
I'm looking at the tide tables and that's why I was asking.
Well,
So
we
if
have to pick
afternoons
a
are better or mornings are better, that sort of stuff, so.
I
Idea,
don't
Greg.
know. I
Good
don't know.
idea.
I'll have to check with Rodrigo
Got it.
and see what his schedule looks like too. But yeah, I mean, it'll be a hell of a shot.
I would, my only comment is I'd probably err towards the earlier part of the month. Because around the beginning of the month, high tides are 10 a.m.-ish. And by the mid-month, by the 10th, they're like 4 in the afternoon. And then as you get later in the month, they're going to be a lot more overnight, so.
Oh, no good then. When do we turn the clocks?
November 1.
Because then by 4 in the afternoon, it's almost dark.
Yeah.
That's November 1 is the setback date clocks.
So we got to be looking then at early November, huh?
Sounds
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
My favorite day of the year. Yep.
All right, I'm making a note right now. Okay, the next. New business. Consideration of a new ordinance to delete certain, finished floor elevations. It's on page 45. Is Jeff with us or, yeah, there's Jeff. I'll turn the clock to you.
Oh, there he is.
Page 45, everyone.
Okay, we ready?
mhm.
All right, Jeff, you're up, buddy.
Oh, shoot.
Yes, you're on.
Sorry.
Hey, Jeff.
Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
we got you.
there's a delay because I have to watch it on the television and there's a delay. So I didn't know. Okay. Where did it go? Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm trying to get other things done here.
Well, I think you're teaching our staff how to reduce a document down to 2 sentences.
Yeah, we like that.
How good is that?
That's super.
All right. Well, Ingrid and myself worked together on this. When I first started, I picked up on a few things I had questions with that I thought were redundant. It's already covered in other areas. We looked at it together, kind of hashed a few things, and presented what we have basically in front of you. I'm assuming everyone had an opportunity to review this already?
Yes.
Yes, looks like it's decimated.
Well, it appears to be, but it's really more cleanup than anything. It's really not, it's nothing that's not already covered. All right, would you like me to read the summary or just start going look at each section? What was your preference?
Go to the sections.
Okay.
Yeah, explain.
All right. So section 3068, hurricane, storm, and flood damage, talks about finished floor elevations west of State Route A1A, and also gives this 18 inches of elevation above the center line of the nearest public or private road. If you're going to give something like 18 inches of elevation, maybe you mean for above base flood elevation, because in most instances, to be quite honest with you, right now with the minimum height, for example, in Bellito, the homes, the finished floor elevation is already close to 5 feet or about 5 feet above the roadway already. So you have kind of an antiquated amount saying it has to be 18. You can't make them less than the federal and state requirements, but you can make them more restrictive, okay? So in this case, it's not even a relevant point for something to be 18 inches above. Where this would come into play would be maybe in the future, if we raise all of the roads in Highland Beach, then maybe that may be more relevant. But at this point, 5 feet is significantly higher than the 18 inches that you're showing. So these regulations, some of them appear to be more restrictive than your current floodplain management, and they're not justified, and they don't really anticipate future changes, which is why I believe we should just always refer back to the FEMA maps and the floodplain ordinance and the full Florida building code, which already address all of these items. When it really comes down to it, you're doing things that are already in your ordinances and already in state law. So there's no reason, and it's just creating confusion, because now it's something else that you have to change again and remember to change, and it's somewhere else to look when it's already covered.
Yeah.
That's really what they all come down to.
It looks like every single one runs true to that.
Yes.
Just about every single one of them. If there's anything particular that you may have concerns about that you would like to ask me about, I can dive into that very specifically for you and go over that. But essentially, the more we dove into it, the more we realized this is already covered under the Florida Building Code. It's already covered in the floodplain ordinance. And one of the things in particular, which I found to be interesting, and I have to remember where that one was, it was asking for, I'm going to save the most important one to me for last. It was asking for, it looked like they wanted generators to be something like 9.5 feet above mean sea level, which I don't think was ever enforced, because west of A1A, essentially that would put almost every single generator up on a stand, on a metal stand. You have to build some sort of a stand up in the air. It just didn't make any sense, because
Right.
that elevation west of A1A is approximately is currently 6 feet. It's going to be going up. So for you to take that to 9.5, that means, it'd be way, significantly higher. And I don't think that was ever enforced in the past. I don't understand the reasoning behind it. Because as FEMA requires, just so you know, there's a difference between commercial and residential, all right? On residential properties, which includes single-family homes, townhouses, and duplexes. If you're not a single-family home, you're not a townhouse, a true townhouse, all right, or a duplex, then you have to be 1 foot above base flood elevation, okay? For everyone else, you have to be at base flood elevation. So when they build a new condo or there's some renovation or they want to, Delray Sands wants to put an addition on, they have to be at the very least at base flood elevation, but a single family home has to be 1 foot above base flood elevation. And all of this is all spelled out in the Florida Building Code, in the residential component and in the commercial component, and it's in your floodplain ordinance. And it automatically gets updated as the flood maps change. So that's why we went through this. And, I would like for us to, maybe if you want to put this to one of the boards to, review and hash out, but I wanted to get the ball rolling on this one. And it's the last one that's here, section 6-128B. It says all seawalls west of State Route A1A shall be at base flood elevation or higher as provided by the FEMA firm maps. And it currently says in excess of +6 feet elevation above mean sea level. This has caused us some problems in the past, because when people don't want to raise their seawall, then they try to use the 1929 datum, which is about 1.5 feet lower than the current datum. And just for, you may already know this, but I'm going to go over this, okay? When you determine datum of mean sea level, the first one that came out was in 1929, and that's called NVGD, all right? Then in 1988, they found a better, more accurate way to measure, and they came out with the 1988 standard for datum, which is called NAVD. And that's what all of the FEMA maps have shown and have reflected since 1988. Sometimes when you want to repair your seawall, you're trying to pour maybe a bigger cap on top of what's there. And to save money, people don't want to go up as high. So when they go to 6 feet, what we're seeing in many instances is submissions from the contractors to 6 feet NGVD, which is a 1929 era datum, okay? And again, that allows that wall to be about 6 feet low, or I'm sorry, about 1 foot 6 inches lower, okay? If we just go by base flood elevation, as the flood maps change, then the minimum height requirement for the seawalls will change. And this way, our town could be more progressive and protect itself as we have a continued, sea level rise, when we have storm events here, when we have storm surge, whether it's a hurricane or a hurricane that's a near miss, and we still have, storm surge. It's not like we're forcing everyone to bring their wall up all at the same time, but as you replace or repair your seawall, we need you to, to help us, and so a few times we've had to have some argument back and forth with some of the contractors, because again, in trying to save money, they're trying to say, well, no, we're going by NGVD, a 1929 standard. And I'm saying that according to the ordinances, when I did research, when the town of Highland Beach put this in place, it was 25 years after when they put the height requirement in the seawall. According to my research, that was 25 years after the 1988 standard. So how can I go ahead and accept a
Right.
1929 standard just because you want to build your seawall 1.5 feet lower. So that one is, of all of them, probably the most important. The rest of them are just redundancy that I don't want to cause confusion in the future, and it'll just simplify things. And we're just kind of updating by getting rid of things that you already have in other areas and are already covered by state law. Any questions on this?
Jeff, I have one,
Anybody?
but
Go ahead, Greg.
Sure.
you don't have to go first.
Yeah, go on.
I believe what you're going to with the seawalls is actually what most of the towns around us do. They do it off of base flood elevations, not NAVD, right?
Base flood elevation is a specific height above NAVD. Currently, on the intracoastal side, we're in AE zone.
Yep.
And the majority of that is currently at a 6 feet NAVD, which happens to line up exactly with what the town commission in 2012 put in place for the minimum seawall height requirement. As a matter of fact, the language was in excess of 6 feet above mean sea level. So they give us paper now that shows 6.01.
Right. Sorry, my question wasn't super clear. Other towns are referencing base flood level or NAVD. I thought actually a lot of them have moved to base flood level now. I thought a lot of other towns are the way they write theirs is what you're moving towards. That's what I was asking for confirmation on.
Yeah, we're moving towards consistency with, because again, base flood elevation is measured in NAVD, but it varies based on where you're at around the county.
Yep.
So it's a moving target based on your location. With the new flood maps, it's actually going to 7 feet.
Yep.
And
Got
on the ocean side, we're going up 2 feet on elevation in the base flood maps. On the ocean side, we're going up 1 foot on the intracoastal side.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I think it's a good idea to get rid of redundancy.
Agreed.
So-
Totally agree.
You need a motion?
So do you want to take this yourselves, or do you want to move this to the planning board for a review and recommendation?
This looks like a no-brainer. I mean,
Right.
Why can't we do this ourselves?
You could.
Right, we
I'm
can.
just looking for that direction as part of any motion, so we can prepare what you guys want.
Okay.
Marshall, let me just ask Marshall's opinion. In your opinion, Marshall, does this need to go to a planning board, or can we just move forward on it?
This is pretty simple. It doesn't have any overly broad policy implication or development changes. It's more of a clarification. I think it's relatively straightforward. It's
Okay,
cleaning it up to have the consistent measure across all of our ordinance structure.
okay, let's move on it then. There,
I move that we follow the recommendations of our building official to how to deal with base flood elevations.
I second that.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Done. Thank you, Jeff.
Great work, Jeff.
Welcome.
Great. Thank you.
Ingrid.
Well done.
Ingrid and I together.
Thank you, Ingrid, too.
Both of you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yep, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Really great.
Okay, let's move on to new business. We're on to 11B. That's on page 53. And this is to ratify our town manager's signature on the agreement for Viking Diving Services to remove the derelict vessel from our beaches. It's the invitation to bid number 20-008. I'll turn this over to Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. So what you have here is that indicated at the last meeting that because of some of the time implications and we wanted to move quickly. So I went ahead and executed the contract under our emergency purchasing order provisions currently in place. And so I'm seeking your ratification and confirmation to do it. The cost of the project is solely covered by the approval of the FWC grant to remove the derelict vessel. You'll be following this up with a budget amendment to recognize those revenues and expenses within the budget. But the finance team, along with the police chief, did a really good job moving quickly. I know people wanted that boat moved, or vessel moved long ago, but moving through a state grant process at this speed was quite remarkable. So again, I can commend Chief Hartman and Eric Marmer and Matt Lally getting this thing moving and out the door so we can get that removed. And if you've been out there this week, they're removing it now. A little bit labor intensive, but whatever it takes to get it off the beach.
Okay, we need a motion. I'll make a
Okay.
motion.
Yeah, I move that we ratify the town manager's signature on the agreement with Viking Diving Services for the removal of the derelict vessel on our beach.
That is 11B. Need a second on it?
I second that.
All in
We all
favor?
second it.
Aye. We got a second and a third.
And a fourth.
And a fifth.
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Done.
Yep.
Okay, we're on now to 11C, which is the budget resolution number 20-020, and that's to pay for it. That's the resolution of the Town Commission, the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending resolution number 20-017, which appropriated funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget and providing for the effective date. Is Matt here, or Marshall, are you going to handle it?
Matt's here, so I'll let him speak to it.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Matt. How are
Oh,
you?
sorry, I'm muted.
There you
No,
go.
you're-
We heard you.
Okay. This budget resolution recognizes grant proceeds from the Florida Wildlife Commission. Specifically, this program is for derelict vessels, like the situation that we have. It covers the cost of the bid. We have to follow certain policies of the FWC to ensure that the expenditures are made in a manner that qualify for the grant funding. We fully expect there to be no problem based on the bid that was done for the derelict vessel removal, and expect to get fully reimbursed from the FWC per the terms of the grant.
Well done, by the way. Thank you, and thank everybody that was involved. You mean we got a grant without Peggy?
You did. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay.
But we got one.
Share well.
Goodness. Okay, so we need a motion to move forward on this.
So I motion that the salvage derelict vessel removal plan, project 20-008, is approved.
008? Where'd that come from?
That was invitation to bid number.
Yeah, you're on the wrong one, Johnny.
Okay.
This is 11C, and it is resolution number 20-02.
What,
20
okay. What page is that on?
20-006.
120. It's on page.
20-020, page 119. That's the
Okay.
Oh,
second one.
119. Wow. We're way up. Ooh, a lot of paperwork on this. My goodness.
Really.
Here,
Amazing.
I'll make the motion. This is item 11C,
Resolution,
number 20-020. Make the motion to
approve.
approve resolution number 20-020, budget amendment. Need a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, moving on to item D. This is the approval to designate Commissioner Gossett Seidman to the Florida League of Cities Transportation and Intergovernmental Relations Committee as the town's representative. Peggy, I'm going to turn this over to you to brief us on it a little bit.
Sure. Thank you. Back in March, some of the league executives had contacted me and said, would I be interested in a role on the committees or as our District 4 representative in the, our current District 4 representative, Shirley Johnson, was up for re-election in the event that she was unable to be re-elected. Anyway, with the annual meeting then becoming virtual, there are a number of positions not filled on these committees. How these committees work is they aspire to have representatives from throughout the state, the areas, to meet virtually or in person when possible, and to form policy for the legislature when they convene in March. They convene later this year because it's an election year. Last year they convened in January, being an off year. And so it's just the closest rep we have to this area is Vice Mayor Andy Amoroso of Lake Worth Beach, a really great guy. Others include a Lake Park representative, but we don't have one from this area. And so when speaking to them, they said, well, would I be interested? Funny enough, when I sent a letter of interest, they just put me on the committee. Sorry, I didn't mean to do it backwards. I apologize. So I got this letter from the president saying congratulations. And I said, I emailed back, thank you very much. I'll be sharing the information with my commission and town managers. So it's pretty funny. It would be an interesting committee, being that it would allow us to have a seat at the table formulating policy to take into our representative and senators once they commence in March. So there's 2 meetings left, which was the reason for them wanting to push it through. One would be Friday via Zoom. And then there's a 3rd one in November that may be Zoom or may be in person. We'll see.
Great. Excellent.
So
Well, thanks for
it's
volunteering.
interesting. Yes, sir. I certainly will bring back everything immediately in a report to Marshall and then presenting to the commission so that we're all up to speed. And we'll see how it goes. It could be a big help
Yep.
as we advance the town. It's all for the town.
We thank you. Excellent.
Yes, sir.
You need a motion?
I guess we do. Yes, we have to.
So it is my pleasure to make a motion to recommend and to honor the recommendation to designate Commissioner Gossett Seidman to the Florida League of Cities Transportation and Intergovernmental Relations Committee as the town's representative member. Wow.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could add, there are a few other positions open if we have any other members. One is on finance, 2 on finance, and a couple other policy positions if anyone else is interested.
Okay. I don't see.
Take it under advisement.
going on.
No, take it under advisement.
Like
Okay.
you, Evelyn.
Yes, I hear you, Peggy.
Well, she did great at the annual meeting last year with regard to hurricane preparedness and all that. Evelyn was like right in there with those questions, so she'd be good.
Yeah, she would.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, we're
She's
gonna
glad
move
to
on
know that she'd be good.
Gonna move on to item E, which is the approval of 4 different commission meetings. It starts on page 131. Does anybody have any issues on any of the 4?
No, I read through it. No.
I do on the July 7th. And it's on page 145.
Okay, where?
I gotta find it now.
11A?
145, just above 11A, the motion. The motion goes included amount not to exceed 75,000, et cetera,
Mhm.
Yes,
fiscal year budget. It doesn't show that it was seconded. It was seconded by Evelyn and all were in favor. Also, had a 6-month duration. I went back and looked at the video and that's where I picked it up. So it was not to exceed 75,000. It was not to exceed 6 months. And it was seconded by Evelyn and all were in favor.
Wow.
Thank you. I will make those changes as noted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else, an adjustment on any of these 4? If not, we can approve all 4 at one time.
Doug?
Yes,
Mayor?
yeah, yes, yes.
Yes, sir. As I mentioned to Marshall, I wanted to present to my fellow commissioners. There are times in the minutes whereby we state in the new consolidated minutes, we state a discussion ensued. But there are times when we need to perhaps expound on that because there are important items mentioned in that discussion, such as some contract negotiations and votes. So I just wanted to be alert that every now and then the discussion ensued isn't quite enough to capture what we were doing in an important discussion.
Okay.
It needs to be elaborated a little bit.
Yep. Whenever we can. be
Otherwise,
brief-
fine, thank you.
Yep. Whenever we can be brief, let's be brief.
could we put it,
You can always go to the
Something-
video.
yeah, could we put something in the minutes saying for details of the discussion, please see the video for this meeting?
Yeah, maybe that should be on the bottom of every one.
There is a disclaimer on the last page of the minutes. There's a disclaimer there that says effective May 19th, 2020, per resolution number 20-008, all meeting minutes are transcribed as a brief summary reflecting the event of this meeting. We could maybe include that the audio is available.
Yeah, and why
There you
don't we just include that, go look at it if you want to hear what was said.
Yeah, in English.
A little, yes, a little more elaborately than that, or elegantly.
So are we ready to accept all 4 videos?
Yes, sir. I
Okay.
make the motion to accept. I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as noted here in the packet, June 16th, et cetera.
July 2nd.
I don't have all the
July
dates in
2nd,
front of me.
July
July 2nd,
July 7th,
July
I got it.
7th, there we go, and July 21st.
July
Got it.
21st.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done. Okay, on to commission comments. John?
Oh, boy. No, I am just very pleased with the discussion on that resolution, the way we addressed it, and I think we have agreement on next steps. So I feel like we've reinforced our camaraderie and our commitment to work together collaboratively and to trust one another, as Commissioner Gossett-Simon has emphasized.
There's no I in team, right?
Exactly.
Okay. That it?
That's it.
Move on. Peggy?
Yes, sir. 2 brief things. I was going diving a month ago with a Boca Commissioner, Councilwoman, and the weather wasn't good. So we ended up chatting on the phone. And in that discussion, not town business, we were discussing the beach. And she wondered why there's always lollipop sticks all over the beaches, which they have clearly a lot of public beaches. And I was able to offer that those that commonly, those who smoke and cannot do so at the beach, bring the large lollipops from 7-Eleven or whatever, and when they're done, they discard it. That's a big beach problem in Boca
Huh.
Raton. Yes, ma'am. And
Wow.
so,
Interesting. Oh,
and
That's
then,
interesting. I didn't know that.
yes, and then while she was able to offer that the seaweed problem, why not so prolific this year, that she had acquired, and I've given this information to Marshall, she had acquired a contact who removes seaweed for free. And so if we get to that point, yes, if we get to that point, we need it, we would essentially have to get our seaweed to Spanish River Park, and they are turning it into fertilizer and renourishment for the Western communities. And moving forward, she's supposed to get back about a company, and certainly Marshall can get with their town manager to follow up. It just came out of nowhere.
Great.
Second, yes, sir, it would be,
yeah.
yay.
Yeah.
And secondly, I just wanted to point out, I'm sure we all noticed it, but Delray Beach raised the cost of medical transport by about 100, but from advanced life support by $100, advanced life support transport fee by $200, and basic life support by $50. So their fees were raised. I don't know if everyone caught up on that, but I know I caught it in the newspaper. So that's it for me. And thank you all for your friendship and cooperation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Evelyn.
Okay, I just want permission to talk to Peggy about what's involved in these FLC policy committees.
You have my permission.
Sure. I'm not sure because I haven't been to one, but I'll see if I can let you know, certainly. I haven't been to one yet.
Wait a minute, don't we have to get the town manager and our attorney and the mayor involved in reviewing what you need to talk about before?
That's why I just asked permission.
Sure.
We have a special
I'm
form for
giving
that.
you advance warning.
And the dog and the
Everybody's
cat.
permission.
Don't forget the dog and the cat.
I think she's putting us on notice. Greg, what do you got?
Nothing. No
Okay,
report.
good.
Oh, wait, Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
we have this in your packet, but if I could just read the paragraph to you all for this particular committee. Again, I haven't attended one, but it states this committee addresses municipal concerns relating to transportation, highway safety, aviation, which doesn't really affect us, affordable housing, homelessness, billboards, building codes, charter schools, rights of way, and veterans affairs. And so what it is each person on the committee allegedly works together to look at the data and decide what the League of Cities itself wishes to fashion as a policy to take to the legislature, which they have a number of personnel who meet daily with senators and representatives to promote what the whole league wishes to have introduced as legislation. Certainly, if we have a town issue, certainly Marshall might say, with your discussion involved, please bring this up. But some of these issues will not directly affect us. And so if there is something that you wish me to say on the town, I certainly will, but otherwise it's fashioning policy. And the best example I can tell you is the national group of lobbyists representing the vacation rentals. There were 800 lobbyists in Tallahassee versus 40 for the League of Cities. And this was 2 years ago and 1 year ago. And the issue was allow the state to fully control and oversee the short-term rentals throughout the state, every town. And the towns didn't want that. We wanted our own, I say we, I mean people that were at the league meetings, wanted their own input. And the league actually, with their 40 people, defeated the 800 lobbyists and retained the ability to enact laws to govern that. It would be as if we are now under the COVID emergency orders. It would be as if the COVID emergency orders would supersede all local laws forever if we did not have home rule in the league. And that's what they represent. Beyond exactly how it works, I haven't been to a meeting. I will certainly inform you. at the next county commission meeting what takes place with notes.
Great, great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my turn. Was a brief discussion about the commissioners sponsoring ordinances. And we've gotten a couple of emails on that idea also. Jeffrey Kleinerman wrote about it a number of months ago as well. And I think it's a great idea also. So I wanted to just kick it around amongst us very briefly. Kind of like real quick, what do we think about it? If in fact we did that, a commission would become the sponsor, kind of like it's done with bills all the way through, at the federal level. I guess it's that way at the state level, I'm not sure. And that commissioner would work through the ordinance from start to finish. And when I say start to finish, it would not just be at the origination of it, but it would be all the way through the appropriate board and through the commission meetings. So let's just kick it around. Peggy, I happen to see you shaking your head. So first.
Well, do I have 2 minutes to talk?
Sure. Of course.
Because, well, hang on, let me get my notes. I have too much going on in my house. We're still putting windows in, so my house is upside down still. All right. Can't find them. I think it's a great idea because in looking back, well, first of all, I've been coming to meetings since 2011. And I'm just saying, sometimes you look back at old notes or you say, I remember that meeting or that, and you don't know where the idea came from. And I think that if we had a name on it, or let's say two of us had the same genius idea at the same time, and that's happened, or on a different year, then you can do a twin representation. But I think it's a great idea because looking back in the minutes and try to figure out where we're going based on where we were. I mean, 3 years ago, this was a different town, let me tell you. So I think it's a great idea. I think it would give us some clarity and cohesion, and then we have someone to blame if something goes wrong. No, I'm just joking. Just joking. Great idea. We could try it. If we don't like it, we could toss it out the window.
Yeah, we could also make adjustments as we go. I mean, nothing's ever set in granite, Okay.
Yeah.
Evelyn, what do you think?
I think it's a good idea because I think sometimes we look at an ordinance or a prior resolution and we really don't know what the thinking was behind it. Or, for example,
Right.
when we just had something come back to us from the planning board where they missed completely what it was we wanted them to do.
Mhm.
Right.
So
I've seen
right,
that
have
many times.
somebody who can keep it on track. Also, sometimes things change. So the thinking behind something may have been great at that time, but no longer applies.
Okay, John, are you done? I'm sorry, you finished?
Yes.
John?
So I guess I am neutral on this. I'm fine. I'm not sure how much I would have to offer on, governmental history and laws and all that, but certainly from a sense perspective of, a business perspective, as well as just what's good for the town, I have no problem working with the team and being involved. So
Give it a go.
give it a go. We'll see what it does.
Okay, Greg?
As I said before, I'll say it again. I think it's a great idea. As Evelyn said, leverage the expertise, the local expertise of different commissioners. Why not? I
Yeah.
love it.
Okay. Marshall, what do you think?
I think it will help move it through and communicate expectations between, especially at least from a management perspective. I think that would be helpful that when the commission makes a motion or a directive on an ordinance and it goes there from staff and then they kind of do something that's kind of off base, it'd be nice to have a commissioner there to say, we really want you to focus on this part of it and not, well, I'll communicate somebody to help communicate it amongst commissions would be helpful. It's almost like getting a non-voting liaison member to all these boards. So when it goes to them, there's a commissioner there saying, here's what we've talked about, this is what we want you to take a look at for us and the like. I don't think there's any harm. Is it for every ordinance?
I don't think it necessarily should be.
Yeah, I mean, there may be some things that are so simplistic that it's not necessary. I guess we make that decision when it comes up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if staff was to say, here, we know we need to work on this, we would have to seek out a commissioner to sponsor said ordinance.
Yeah, kind of make that call when it comes.
Mhm.
And again, you know, based on the background, the knowledge, et cetera, of the commissioner. I mean, here's a perfect example. If something came up that had to do with the marine industry, the background, et cetera, I mean, I would immediately look at Greg. You know, based on our commissioner, Greg has more knowledge there. Let's hope that's the first one. I'd like to stick him with it. Let him be the guinea pig. No, I mean, you know, so we would look to where we think it fits first, you know.
Sure. I'm on board.
Great.
Maybe we should have a resolution restricting the mayor in what.
I know I'm going to get it. I can see it coming. Glenn, do you see any pitfalls here? Do you know of any other towns that have done this? Anything you can share?
No, I think it's fine if you want to go down that path. I mean, it's really just a matter of what works best on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
And I agree with you. I think the vice mayor gets the first assignment, right?
Yep. Mayor,
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Peg. Yes.
to add to the levity of the meeting, the other last meeting, looking at all the water rates, I think we all went a little, over the top with our reading. But anyway, I put together a couple of lines of all the things that we pulled from our meeting minutes that we actually have talked about. And if I could just read it for a minute, it's pretty funny. And this is what we are supposed to be proficient in. A1A roadway, walkway, crosswalk, side streets, street signs, monument signs, sewer lines, water plant, water rates, sewer study, lift stations, injection wells, building structures, flood maps, flooded streets, street easements, setbacks, bridge abutments, retention ponds, swollen swales, French drains, outfall pipes, sea walls, sea level rise, sea turtles, climate change, beach renourishment, breakwater, sand dredging, dune erosion, seaweed removal, native plantings, coral reefs, groins, jetties, marinas, climate vulnerability, boat docks, boat lifts, pilings, marinas, shorelines, and my favorite, shot rock and rubble riprap. So I just thought I'd entertain everyone with those items of town that we're supposed to be knowledgeable about, just as a first look.
I think we need a raise.
Yeah.
We have to do all of that, we should get a raise.
That's why we get paid so much.
Yeah, right.
Not to mention the budget, the codes, the police and fire collective bargaining comp plans. Anyway, I just thought I'd
There we
entertain
go.
everyone. My
I think
brain
you
is a
forgot-
little overloaded that.
Thank you.
That's
You
good.
forgot, Peggy, grape leaves.
What?
Great, please.
Grape leaves.
What did I forget? Oh my
Great
gosh, I'll write it
leaves.
in.
Great read. Great read, he said. All right, let's go on
Got
to, we got two more reports. Anything from Glenn? No?
No report other than you all know, unless the governor signs another last minute order, we're back to in-person next month.
Yep. Okay. Marshall? You?
Yes, sir.
You're
I
the cleanup
will, I will start where Glenn left off. We are working, I gave some tasks over to Linelda to beef up our notice because we are going to have some meeting protocols as we are meeting in person. There are attendance limitation. There will be attendance limitations so we can ensure compliance with the CDC guidelines for social distancing. So we're not going to be able to pack 100 people into the boardroom. So we will have to have some type of pre-registration. So basically you call for a reservation to be in person up to that number. So it'll be a first come, first served basis. We'll also still have Zoom available. The Zoom platform will still be available for all public comments in the chamber. So people can still participate via Zoom. but we will be making some room space available for the general public on a first come, first served basis. Some of that might get more limited when we get into like a planning board meeting where a petitioner may bring in, 5 people with them. Those people are going to get some preferential choice on that space so that they can be before the board that which they're presenting. So we're going to make those changes now. We'll get those protocols out for you. We've upgraded the facility with some plexiglass dividers. So we're going to make every attempt to make it as safe as possible. There will be some requirements that masks will be need to be worn while in that building. We will probably do a temperature read when people come in, just to ensure some baseline of safety as we reconvene and get comfortable with meeting again at the dais, because it's a narrow room, so some of the spacing requirements are difficult than if you had like an auditorium where you could space out. So we're going to do our best. We're working on that now, and we should have something to share hopefully at the end of the week, right, Linelda? Just nod. Is that, yep, see, we're on top of it. So we got those things coming. As you drive through town, you'll notice the crosswalk signs are up. I know our friend over in Coronado put out his little magazine, and somebody said, "Where are they? Look outside. They're supposed to be done today." That rain may have slowed down the last couple on the north side of town, but they have been installed. Go try them out. Be careful. Make sure the lights flash and traffic is clear before crossing. This doesn't make people stop, but it does improve visibility and safety of the crosswalk. So those are in. As soon as it stops raining, we can get the logo painted up on the elevated storage tank. The tank is ready for it. It's just we've had too much rain consistently to get up on the tank, and the wind is a little bit dangerous too. But we'll be getting that in place. You'll see the Coastal Resiliency Partnership call for surveys to be filled out by interested parties in the community. We are the #1 community in responding. So we are taking our partnership very seriously. So that's good to hear. The derelict vessel is currently being removed from the beach piece by piece. So that is happening now. The water rate study will be returning on the 5th with them clarifying some of the questions that were asked in summary by the commission at our last meeting. So they're working on that now. The fire department is active. That fire bill matrix is working on that fire department feasibility study as we speak. Again, they ran into a couple snags getting information from Delray on the 17 and 18 data, CAD data, which is their emergency response data. So FD is working on that information for our consultant now. Another item, as I shared in the manager's update last week, Delray Beach has a beach nourishment project scheduled for next year. They are in the stages of permitting, as we all understand from our conversations before. Their initial permit and authorizations commenced in 1973. This is their next sequence in it. They will be doing an offshore dredge to do it. That being said, we've looked at some of that information, got our hands on it. We have an opportunity to file comment or objection. And it's kind of a question I'm going to ask the commission. Would you like me to pursue that? In so doing, we have time that I can draft it up and get it back to you for your next meeting for final approval. But are you at all interested in at least filing something that Highland Beach, if you will, is watching? I don't believe we will have the ability to stop the project because everything that we're going to express concern over, they do address through their coastal engineers. But we will be actively participating in the process for their permits. Again, their borrow area, we had our consultant take a quick peek at it. Most of the sand they need will not be immediately off our shore, but they do have authorization to proceed about 1,000 feet south, a half mile offshore on the north side of town. So they won't go as far south as the dredge that the Boca came into, but the dredge for the Delray Beach project can drift a little bit south into what would be waters in front of Highland Beach. Their documents and information are all there. I can get you the DEP link. We can kick that about. So basically, maybe by a nod, do you want me to draft a letter that we would submit expressing our concern over offshore dredging in some cases. Again, I don't believe it will stop the project, but at least it puts us in the conversation, or that they know that Highland Beach is concerned.
Can you repeat where they're dredging again?
So they're doing, I believe it's their main, I don't have the document up, it's their main beach. So they have an offshore borrow area for their project that does extend about 1,000 feet south of our northern boundary, about a half a mile offshore. So the southern part of their borrow area is off the shore of Highland Beach. It's a little bit further north than the Boca's borrow area was. But nonetheless, the southern tip of this borrow area is immediately offshore for about the first 1,000 feet of town.
I would
Our
suggest
consultant
you-
believes, yeah. So the consultant believes they probably would do most of their dredging to the north side of the borrow area because there's adequate sand reserves and it's closer to the location, so it costs less. Nonetheless, they're seeking authorization in the entire borrow area so that doesn't fall into
I would
offshore
suggest,
Highland Beach.
I would suggest it would not hurt to draft a letter.
Okay, so I will do that. Bring it for you guys to give me the thumbs up, and we'll go from there. Okay, great. Other than that, just a couple of kudos, shout outs, the finance department this week. Donna Clark, our senior accountant, deputy finance director, did a good job of getting all of our contract languages into Paylocity and all the changes and modifications and whatnot. So she did a really good job making sure we didn't miss a paycheck and all of the requirements were put in place within our system. Eric Marmer, who's our management analyst, getting the derelict vessel stuff out so quickly and stayed on top of that. Good job there, and Matt for helping us with the contract negotiations and doing all the number crunching for us. So just kudos out to the finance department for their work over the last month, getting us in the right spots at the right place at the right time. But other than that, I don't have any other updates, but I will get out, start working on a letter for you guys to review. And the crosswalks they're up and operating. So I'd encourage people, once it stops raining, to get out, push the button, see what it looks like, flashes. Those at Regency Highland that are watching, we have to do a little tree trimming because the east side ones up into your trees that are the sea grapes are growing over it. So we'll be trimming that back a little bit. So they're up, they're operational. They said by the end of the day. I heard a lot of rain out there, so maybe they might have to activate a few in the morning, but they're in.
Great.
Excellent. Anybody have anything else before we adjourn? No? Okay, thank you all. And we will adjourn. It is 3:54. And what's the expression? That's all, folks?
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks. Thank you all. Be well.
Thank you.